Good day, IT professionals. Today, let's turn IT theory into ITSM reality. In this program, I'll guide you through the essential concepts and practices, terms that define modern IT service management, or ITSM, and how you and your organization can create a best practice operational support model. This course is designed to be self-paced, free to pause, take notes, revisit as needed the various chapters which I'll post. My name is Bob. I have over 20 years experience implementing ITIL processes, mostly on the ServiceNow platform, where I was a platform owner at that same time at multiple Fortune 500 companies. I'm both ITIL and ServiceNow CSA certified. I create these videos to take the complexity out of ITSM and turn it into something practical and easy to use and understand. If you want clear, experienced guidance on how to run high-performance service organizations without the jargon and fluff, and I'll throw a couple tips and tricks in there along the way, then you're in the right place. This course is intended for executives, IT executives, service management leaders, ServiceNow, architect and admins, process owner, process managers, and then of course project managers as well when there's projects coming in the door. At the end of this video, you'll understand ITSM and how the ITIL framework fits into ITSM, and you'll be able to collaborate with leaders to improve your support organization. So let's kick things off. To understand IT service management, or ITSM, we need to start with the ITIL structure. What is ITIL, and why is it critical to any organization to adopt? As we go through this presentation, do not hesitate to click subscribe. You know the drill, and that helps my channel. So what is ITIL? ITIL stands for the Information Technology Infrastructure Library. ITIL or ITIL, doesn't matter, both work, and it was created back in the mid-80s by the UK government. They built this best practice framework basically to provide structure, repeatability, and a best practice model to support IT services. ITIL provides a flexible, modern framework built around the service value system. I'll talk about SVS in a few slides from now. And it ensures that all components of the organization work together to create value. At its core, ITIL is a common language or a common framework that provides best practice support processes. There's a governance model that is in place if followed, where teams, aren't running around amok and they're working together as one to support the services that they provide. There's a lifecycle approach from, build it, deploy it, support it, and then, rinse and repeat and continuously improve. There's value driven, always in mind to support the customer. It's a proven operating model at the end of the day, and it is the blueprint that service management or IT service management has as a whole. Research shows that 70 to 80% of Fortune 500 companies out there, leverage ITIL to support their ITSM framework in one way or another. So why leverage ITIL? Well, it defines the processes you need to stand up service management. There's definition, workflow, roles, and controls that provide a structured, predictable, and repeatable approach to deliver those IT services. There's a governance structure, when implemented, that has accountability with roles and responsibilities. So within the organization, the support teams know who's doing what, when they're doing whatever they're doing, and why they're doing it. It prevents that chaos and truthfully, the shadow IT organizations out there that do things without other people being involved. Hint, hint, I think most of us have had that experience at some point in our lifetime. And the whole point is to make sure that the upper management and leadership is behind this governance structure so everyone's supporting the same methodology. Within ServiceNow, and I'm a big fan of ServiceNow, obviously, it's built around the ITIL framework. So if you are using ServiceNow or whatever tool you use, using ITIL in your build out of those services within the platform of choice is vital. It provides that architectural foundation to support those services that are needed with whatever tool you're utilizing. It ensures that the services are designed, not just implemented. And by that, it's that collaborative effort, and I'll talk about it with the SVS, where you have the customer and the business collaborating on the services that are being delivered. There's defined outcomes, there's SLAs, usually financial in some form, OLAs, the internal agreements on how they're going to support the structure, and dependencies mapped around, I call it the big four, the server, app, database, network groups, and how those systems are interconnected to create the services, where risks are clearly understood and the costs are clear with the project timeline The big three: the cost, the resources, and the timeline are always important, and everything that's implemented with an IT organization and have to be looked at as well. It enables continuous improvement from day one. As you build out these services, it's not a build it and let it go and just forget about it. You're constantly looking at how you can improve the services, whether it's your speed to deploy, whether it's the cost to deploy or the cost to maintain, or when there is a disruption, how quickly can you restore those services to hopefully not get a financial penalty for missing an SLA. That's always the goal. So again, it's continuous improvement from start to finish on how you can support those services better. And at the end of the day, it's trying to eliminate the reactive firefighting. I think most of us in our careers can say that we've had these firefighting battles at one point or another, and they're a pain, right? And the whole goal is to reduce or eliminate those. So it's a more proactive approach. When there is, let's say, a service disruption, we can get that service back up quickly, hopefully without the customer knowing. Or if they do see it, then it's done in a timely fashion versus we're firefighting with our heads cut off, and that service disruption is hours and not minutes, and that's obviously important. And then the business value part of it, again, the next slide is around the service value system, or SVS. The whole point is to deliver measurable business outcomes. Faster resolution, reduced downtimes, better CSAT, lower the cost to support and maintain, and increase reliability so the customer's happy. That's the goal at the end of the day. So what is this service value system? Well, it's the core model within ITIL that explains how an organization worked together to create value to support and deliver IT services. There are 5 key elements part of the SVS system. The guiding principle: universal recommendations that help teams make decisions. Can't state it any better. There's alignment on decisions that are being made to build and support those IT services being delivered. There's a governance structure. Need to make sure that there's senior leadership behind the IT service management model. Without that, chaos ensues. You must, as an organization, have that support from above and all down the food chain, from those executives to directors, managers, and even the technical staff. All are following the same support model, so there's not chaos. The value chain is key because you provide value through the planning, designing, transition, build, maintain, support. There's constant continuous improvement that you take from a demand to delivery model. The practices, there's 34 practices. That's kind of an interesting couple slides that I'll throw in here, but I wanted to show how from ITIL version 3 to ITIL version 4, how those differ. They went from processes to practices, and I'll show those quickly, but I'll run down what the difference is between V3 and V4. But those practices or processes now, processes under the practices are vital to build and maintain this IT services support. And then again, continual improvement. That is the nature of anything that we implement, is to make sure that those service processes and systems are delivered in a high valued model, and they maintain resiliency through their life cycle. Let's talk about the ITIL guiding principles. The principles there are a step-by-step instruction, or where we say where the North Star is of every direction from process to improvement and implementation. It starts with focus on value. Create value for the customer. Who is this for? What is the outcome? What are we trying to do, and why does it matter? Then it goes into start with where we are. If we've already built some service system, application database, what's currently in place before we go down the road of rebuilding it from scratch? Don't throw away what already works. Start with what you have and improve on what you have. That'll also reduce costs and, of course, time to implement. The iterative feedback with the business, is vital. Keep small, manageable increments of feedback as you go through the building of your implementation. It reduces risks, it accelerates the value, and it keeps the stakeholders engaged. Everyone's busy. Everyone's in meetings all day. I know how that is. and it's very difficult to do your day job and be in meetings. But at the end of the day, those project meetings are important as you build out the services, and you want to make sure that you're progressing well, but at the same time, keeping the right people informed in the right time. Collaborate and promote visibility. Basically, as you're doing the work, promote the services, in a dev test and then prod environment, of course, but promote what you're doing and keep those customers, key stakeholders, and I call them collaborators or business champions out there. Keep them involved in the service build out. Having that provides that transparency and breaks down the silos to make sure that if there are modifications and some decision-making changes that have to occur, that everyone knows what's going on and there's no surprises. Think and work holistically. The 4 Ps. People. You need resources to do the work. So you need to make sure that you have the right roles and the right resources assigned to those areas of support. The processes, practices that you need to do to handle the service support. So when there is an incident or a change or a request or what have you, that there's processes to manage through start to finish of those processes. The products. In the old days, it was called technology. Now it's products, but the products that we deliver, again, server, app, database, network components combined provide a service, right? So it's those products or technology that is built. They're also very important and crucial in what you deliver as a service. And then the partners. In the old days, it was all internal IT, built a service and deployed it. Now with cloud services, with managed service providers, you have external companies supporting your services. So you need to make sure that you have that core partner relationship with those partners in case there is some modification or change and you need to have them engage quickly. Those business relationships are very important. There's a practice that talks about that. I have a video on that. But the partner collaboration is just as important as the internal collaboration to support the services. Keep it simple. Keep it practical. A lot of times in us IT guys, we like to build the ocean, so to speak, from day one. You don't have to do that. Start small, learn what you've built, look at what you've built, and look at how you can provide increased value on that service. There's always complexity, but you don't have to start with the end in mind. You start baby steps, as we say in ServiceNow. You crawl, you walk, you run, you fly. The practice we play. It's the same here. Is you want to start small, start with something very simple, and then build it as you go. And of course, at the end of the day, the service will be implemented in a good fashion. Optimize and automate. AI is coming at us everywhere, right? And I know leaders are pushing you as well as they were with me. Get AI out there. People are scared of it. It's still fairly new, at least the time of this video. There's some AI that works pretty well. ServiceNow has adopted a lot of AI, and I know other companies have as well. Look at it. Don't be scared of it. You have to embrace it and look at your current services and support model. Automate where you can. That's very important. Take the guesswork out. Automate those alerts that auto trigger an incident ticket, for example. And if you can leverage AI to help, support the services like a first round, that they can do that before it gets into a human, that's not necessarily a bad thing if it can do it quickly and truthfully accurately. So look at the automation side and look at the AI side is my point. I put this up here because this is a good model that I like to use and have used at multiple companies. Starting from left to right, when you're implementing a service, start with what are we trying to do here? What's the business? What's the strategy from above? What's leadership looking to implement and what they've approved, from a strategic and dollar perspective, and start with what are we trying to do? Then the second is what's currently in place. I talked about a little bit earlier is if you already have some service or part of a service in place, look at what that is, try to leverage it before you start from scratch. So look what's currently in place. Then what are we trying to do? What's our desired result? That is that third step, and that kind of gets into the business requirements piece where, make sure you have the business requirements defined so you know what the end result is. But those first 3 steps are everything when you start an implementation. And ironically, they're some of the most challenging. If you've ever done business requirements gathering, you know that it's very difficult to get, like minds in a room to capture those business requirements. They seem to always change a little bit over time, but you can, have a first approach, then you can have a plan B, or not plan B, a second tier, a third tier, and, bring that up into an ongoing kind of model where you start small and then build as you go. But you have to have those big three. And then number 4 is, how are we going to achieve this result? I guarantee you, with everything that's being implemented, the big 3 I call it, the golden triangle. There's resources that are involved, there's money that's involved, and there's a timeline that's involved. How are we going to achieve the result given those 3 things? Are we going to need more money to get more resources? Are we going to need more time? That hardly ever happens, right? It's always do it quicker, right? So sometimes quicker means more resources, more money. The point is when you get into that 4th step of how you're going to achieve the results, look at resources, money, and the timeline. Those 3 things have to be discussed, agreed upon before you move to the next step. The next step is what are we going to do? What actions need to be implemented to build this service out? That's your project timeline and your project planning that gets involved. So you have a plan and you have the resources assigned, already agreed to in the prior step, and the money behind it and the timeline to build out what's needed. Then on the 5th, you get into, or 6th, I should say, you get into, was it implemented as it was desired? I mean, did we deploy what we were supposed to, or what we were, agreed upon or approved to do? Look at that. And then you kind of start that cycle over again, where lessons learned on if you're going to improve it next time, or you're going to update what was deployed, and you go back to the start of, okay, you deployed it. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to make it better, make it bigger, make it faster, whatever it is? The point is this workflow, if you follow this, is sometimes difficult, but at the same time, if you can get everyone on the same page to follow these steps, it makes the service build out much more efficient. And that's what I'm trying to portray here, is have a rinse and repeat model, follow these steps, especially the first 3. Those are critical to make sure you have those aligned. And then when you're building it, you get into, again, the time, money, resources, and what your desired result is. So let's dive into the ITIL V3 to V4 alignment from processes to practices. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is a little bit dry, so I'm gonna go through it pretty quickly, but my whole goal is to show you from the V3 side, where it was, strategy, design, transition, operation, and continuous improvement, and how that big 5 morphed into more of 34 different practices under those models. And I'll walk through that quickly, but I'll show you where these practices are. So looking at service strategy, here's the first 4. I have those in like a dark tan, so focus on those. Those are the practices that are now part of the first phase, if you will, of strategy. And again, it's not a perfect alignment from V4 to V3 in reverse, but I did my best to try to align where those reside. When many of us might be new to V4, and we've had this V3 in our head for the last 5 years or so, and my goal is to kind of help morph that mindset for you. So service strategy, the first 4. Service design, 5 through 18. This one's obviously a little bit bigger when you get into design. Not surprising when you get into the capacity side, the service level side. You bring in InfoSec and how we're going to design, the security around things. The resource and workforce talent, organizational change is always a fun one, and how we're going to build the infrastructure. So that's what design is these, like I said, 5 through 18. Transition is definitely, the project to change, and then moving into more of a risk, building out the service management or CMDB. That's obviously important. And the knowledge is powerful, as they say, but knowledge management and those how-to documentation guides are key to any organization. And yet we always tend to push them to the side and do them later, and later turns into a year from now. So I encourage you, when you do build out those services, lean on knowledge management, get those how-to quick reference guides built as part of the service when you deliver it, and try your best not to put it off for a later day, because a later day seems to be way down the road, and that's always a challenge. Service operation, we live in this space mostly, right? This is your, something breaks, we got to manage it, major incident management, getting woken up in the middle of the night, the service desk involved, monitoring and alerting. So operation is kind of the key space that we live in. And then continuous improvement. That hasn't really changed. I threw measurement and reporting in this one. It's also part of operation, I know, but at the same time, there's improvement that can happen with those alerts that trigger or don't trigger, or those alerts that are noise, false positives, as I say. I never want to talk bad about a company, but at a prior company, we were receiving, you're going to laugh, we were receiving over 2,000 alerts a day that meant nothing. So they'd come into the service desk and the team would be, well, what do you want to do with these 2,000 alerts that we see every day? It's just noise. So, it's a good example of what not to do to make sure that those alerts do fire and that they're manageable. But if there's noise, don't fire an alert. Get rid of them, because you're wasting resources, time. In this case, looking at 2,000 alerts that mean absolutely nothing. So when you do set up that monitoring and alerting, that's very important. And of course, the measurement of those of alerts and the reporting of those alerts. That's why I said it's really continuous improvement, but it's also part of that prior operational with monitoring and event management. Key practices that we commonly use. I just kind of said that's more on the operational space, but incident management, restoring the service. This is one also that sometimes you have to educate people, because people think a problem and an incident are the same. They are not. An incident is there was something working, now it's not, or it's disrupted. That's an incident. Where a problem is looking at those repeat incident offenders, or a missed SLA, or a change that went south. You kick up problem management and think of problem management as root cause analysis. Why did this occur? What can we do to stop or prevent reoccurrence? That's what problem management is. It's different than incident management. Change enablement. What's change management? Change enablement, just a different word, but it's still the same. When you modify those services within the organization, you have to have some formal change control, especially when you're doing production modifications. Yet another example I'll bring up at a prior company, there were changes in production that were not documented or approved. I don't know about you, but that is not good. And in some cases, that's immediate termination. When you're modifying a prod system and you didn't tell anybody. So I highly encourage you to make sure that within your organization that there's strong change control. A fun fact on the change front, between 80 and 85% of all incidents are due to a prior change. Think about that for a second. 8 out of 10. We're modifying something and it's going to break. Crazy, huh? And that stat, I got that, I want to say I got that partly from Gartner. I think IDC was part of that too, but it's somewhere between 80 and 85%. But just think 8 out of 10, right? So if you have strong change control, then that means incidents will be reduced. Service will be up better, or more available, I should say, sorry. And that'll help customer satisfaction. So incident and change, tightly coupled in a weird way, make sure you have strong change control so you have less incidents. Service requests. Someone wants something. I want some software. I want a new laptop. I want, some new toy. That's service request management. We live in that space as well once a request comes in the door to fulfill that service. And then again, I talked about earlier with knowledge management. Having that information documented and shared in ServiceNow, we call them KB articles, right? That is huge. So when you have them tied, let's say an incident occurs and you have a knowledge article that gives a first crack at what, steps to take when that service was disrupted, that just helps that restoration process go even better. So having that is also key. But I just wanted to point out these are the key practices that we're most often in almost on a daily basis. And there's always improvement, continuous improvement in these spaces. But at the same time, I encourage you and your organization to make sure those are tight and always strive to make them better. So let's wrap up and summarize what we've learned today. We've learned about ITIL. What is ITIL? It's the key framework to support service management. It aligns IT with business strategy and supports the operational and business goals. It improves service quality and reliability. with those standard processes, rinse and repeat processes or practices now to support the business. It enables continual improvement on everything that's deployed and supported within the IT service organization. Constant feedback, loops on continuous improvement, metrics to look at how those services are handled or how they're operating and where they can be improved. The cross-functional collaboration part of ITIL is huge. We, the business, must work with the customer to build these services collaboratively to support what we're delivering. Make them part of the journey. Shared vision, shared governance, and of course, at the end of the day, a shared model of what you're delivering. And then ITIL converts processes into practices. It's a similar logic, but at the same time, it's more defined, I would say. And you have each of these practices that all 34, believe it or not, are vital. Some are definitely more important than others, in my humble opinion, but all 34 are needed when you build out your services. You now have a solid understanding of the ITIL and the service value system and core IT service management practices that support digital operations. Thank you for hanging with me, and I encourage you to explore the ITIL practices in more depth. This presentation will be posted on our website, bottom right corner there, and more details will be included in the description of this entire slide deck, which I'll also post on the website. Be sure to check out my video library on each of the practices as I post them, and visit onboardingitsm.com for more coaching and consulting services. I appreciate your time, and have a great day.